My colleague Ketan Vaidya joining us live. Ketan, 3 or 4 important points that Mr. Pawar has made, saying that whether the government will survive or not, only a floor test will ascertain. He says NCP MLAs were never favoured over the Shiv Sena MLAs. Most importantly, he is now saying that the Assam and the Gujarat government is playing an active role in this and the agency is being misused. So there you have Mr. Pawar unfazed and almost making a statement that MVA is in no danger here.
Well, actually, the MVA, at least on the optics of it, should heave a sigh of relief by what the NCP and Maratha strongman Sharad Pawar has said in his typical sartorial as well as satirical style. He brought a big sheet of paper and he said that the video which is recently circulated by the Eknath Shinde camp, it says that we are with a national party, and he read out names of 6 official national party, including his own party, NCP, BSP, Congress, BJP, CPI and CPIM. And he said, it's up to you. He told the press, it's up to you to realize which national party is with this rebel faction. And he almost reiterated as well as repeated what earlier in the day Shiv Sena leader Sanjay Raut had said, when he said that if you have any grudges, if you think that Shiv Sena shouldn't be a part of the larger MVA coalition, then you have to come back. Staying in Assam, staying in Gujarat and making statements through social media and WhatsApp group won't help. So the point that we were speaking a while ago, Afrida, I think Sharad Pawar has almost stressed on that point, that the fine point is that the MLAs have been taken there by coercion, is what the Aghadi leaders seem to be claiming. And hence, once they are back, once they are brought in front of the governor, once they face the media or meet the leaders, then they will be able to say whether they are willingly with Eknath Shinde or they are brought there by force. So post Pawar's press conference, some things are almost clear. That the MLAs, there is still hope for the MLAs to speak out their mind. B, NCP and Congress is steadfast in its resolve to support the MVA government. And third, when someone senior as Pawar says that the government will sail through, I'm sure that some sincere and genuine efforts are going on to ensure that the Uddhav Thackeray led government, MVA government, lasts its full term.
So much for breaking it all down for us and giving us all the clarity that we needed on this. Big statement coming from NCP Supremo Sharad Pawar. Ketan, thanks for giving us the details. And viewers, of course, this is a big day again with all the twists and turns that are happening in this saga. You're watching the Urban Debate. Very good evening. I'm Afrida Rahman Ali. It's day 3 of the political pot boiler in the state of Maharashtra. Continues to simmer with, like I said, new twists and turns adding to the drama. The latest in the developments, you heard Mr. Pawar say that the real test will be the floor test. He also says Hindutva is only an excuse, an alibi. The BJP governments in Assam and Gujarat are actively involved, also saying that there are agencies being deployed to ensure that the government is destabilized. All of these statements being made by Mr. Sharad Pawar, extremely significant coming at this point. Remember, the primary players here are the Shiv Sena, the Uddhav Thackeray faction and the Shinde Sena, the rebel camp. But the NCP, the Congress and the BJP are all players in this game. They all have high stakes in all of this. It's a battle royale for the state of Maharashtra, and we are tracking all the developments here on Mirror Now. Congress, NCP have come forward. The tallest leaders have come forward saying we support Uddhav Thackeray, we are in support of Shiv Sena. But there was a subtle hint from one of their leaders like Sanjay Raut, who said that we might consider the demand made by Eknath Shinde to break ties with MVA. So there are these statements, claims, counterclaims coming in. Earlier during the day, both Uddhav camp as well as the Shinde camp exchanged words through letters and tweets. I'll go through those in a bit. Let me first bring in my colleague Abhishek from Guwahati. Abhishek, the important question to ask about the Shinde camp is, what are they waiting for if they have all the numbers? What is still keeping them in Guwahati?
Yes, definitely. As we speak, still the number game is yet to, the magic figure of 37, they don't have right now. And as the video has surfaced of showing of strength, that clearly shows around 42 MLAs, out of which 35 MLAs are of Shiv Sena. And what we are coming to know from the sources, two more MLAs, one prominent minister, agriculture minister Dada Bhuse, and Sanjay Rathod, ex-minister from Sena, are on their way. Now that adds up to 37. But what we are coming to know from the sources is that, they need more numbers because the backdoor channel talks still continues. And Shiv Sena, Uddhav Thackeray is expecting that whenever there is a floor test or a show of strength physically in front of the governor or in the assembly, some of these MLAs who are in the camp of Shinde might defect and come back to Sena. So definitely they are holding their cards at the moment when it comes to Shinde camp. They are gathering more and more MLAs from the Shiv Sena and trying to defect Uddhav Thackera's Shiv Sena so that they have around comfortable 40 to 39 MLAs. Even if 2 or 3 defect, they will be in a good, comfortable situation to avoid the anti-defection law. That is the biggest point, and that is where the strategy of MVA is, because if MVA succeed in holding those numbers with them, then the MLAs, rebel MLAs, can directly be disqualified. And remember, the deputy speaker is of the MVA who will be taking and conducting the floor test if they ask for or any no confidence motion is moved by the BJP.
Okay.
So we will have to wait and watch. Definitely, that's the reason the epicenter of the entire Maharashtra politics is still in Guwahati.
Absolutely, but like you rightly said, Abhishek, things are fragile and things are fluid, and that is why this is so interesting. Thanks for joining us. And that also means that a loyalist today can be a rebel tomorrow. So nothing is cast in stone. It's still a matter of suspense. How many of these numbers that Mr. Shinde is claiming will come and block and support him when it really comes to it, or if it really comes to a floor test? So what does the Uddhav camp have to say? The Uddhav faction of the Shiv Sena says they are ready to rethink on the alliance. This has come from Sanjay Raut. It says that rebels must return to Mumbai. They're saying their position is first return and then we shall talk. Also saying that we are open for all kinds of negotiations. What does the other camp say? The Shinde camp says withdraw support from MVA first, break ties with Congress and NCP, and then we can talk. Also says resign from the post of the chief minister. So Uddhav has to resign. Uddhav has to announce that he has broken ties with the NCP and Congress. Then only they can consider coming back and having a discussion, and they do not believe in assurances. And of course, the NCP Supremo address to the media that we just heard is again another element to all of this, where the NCP and in fact the Congress as well says that we are steadfast in our support to Uddhav Thackeray and to the Shiv Sena. All said and done, there is revenge, there is retribution, and there is revolt that is being witnessed at the moment. Let me introduce, joining us here on the program this evening, Shubhrashtra, author and founder of The Churn, Varun Singh, senior journalist, Sanjay Hegde, senior advocate of the Supreme Court, Ravi Srivastava, political analyst, Mohit Bajaj, spokesperson of the Shiv Sena, Mandar Parab, who is a senior journalist. Very warm welcome to all of you. Thanks for joining us here on the program. Mr. Sanjay Hegde, before we go into all the possibilities and the political churn, etc., let's go back to the book and understand, legally speaking, constitutionally speaking, what does it look like to you? Claims and counterclaims are being made, all right, but do you really believe that the Uddhav Thackeray government is on the verge of a collapse?
On your definition of collapse, ideally, I mean, the BJP or the Shinde Sena would want Mr. Uddhav Thackeray to put in his papers, go away, and then an alternative government would emerge. That is what they wish for. But if he decides to stand up and fight, ultimately everything can only be resolved. And I've been saying it from day one of this crisis, and I've been saying it in other crises as well. All these things have to be finally resolved only on the floor of the assembly. Now, you can't run the government of Maharashtra from Guwahati. You may go there for a holiday, this, that, and the other, fine. But you have to come to Bombay. Yeah, there has to be the chief minister may be seeking a motion of confidence on his own behalf, or the governor may direct the chief minister to seek a motion of confidence. Please also know that there have been instances in history where governments knew that they did not have the numbers, but yet chose to fall on the floor of parliament or on the floor of the assembly only to come back at a later date. You remember the 13-day Vajpayee government. You remember Deve Gowda's government. All those huge parliamentary debates had an impact on the politics of the future. That too is a very valuable prize. So irrespective of who goes to Guwahati or who goes somewhere else, end of the day, it has to be the assembly in Bombay which will resolve these things.
If I understand you correctly,
just
okay.
1 minute.
Sure.
Then there are two people who are referees of different parts of the process. One is the speaker when it comes to questions of qualification, and one is the governor when it comes to questions of whether there has been a breakdown of constitutional machinery, and also if there is a new government to be formed, who has to be called to form the government. That is where those are those little areas of governor's discretion which come in. But they have to be strict and impartial referees. They cannot become players. Unfortunately, in this country, we've often seen both these high offices degenerating into being players in the game. I hope that does not happen in Maharashtra.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, that gives us a lot of clarity on how this could pan out if it really comes to it. Now, all of this hinges on, like Mr. Hegde said, after the MLAs return to Mumbai, it cannot be a case made that you will be in Guwahati and stake claim and say, I have the numbers. You have to first return. So, so with that, I want to just go across to Mohit Bajaj, who's a Shiv Sena spokesperson. Mr. Bajaj, what exactly is the plan of action here when it comes to the Shiv Sena keeping its house together? It looks like it has already fallen apart. Whether it can avert the anti-defection is one question, but what about the party and its survival?
First of all, very good evening to all the viewers. And as my colleague and senior advocate, Mr. Hegde sir, is saying that we can't run the government from Assam or from any other state. We need to come back to our state, and the floor test and another things, that is another concern. And while coming back to the question which you are asking to me, actually our plan of action is straightforward, that right now we are simply waiting and watching, and whatever requirements of all the MLAs they had forwarded to us in written, we are ready to listen each and every person. We are ready to if some sort of solution they need, then even we welcoming each and every person. But for then, they need to come in front and they need to
have
sit.
Made a condition clear, Mr. Bajaj. They are saying announce publicly that you will break ties from NCP and Congress. They have given a condition for return. Is that an acceptable condition to the Shiv Sena, to the Uddhav Thackeray faction? They have said that if you want us to return, you need to break ties. Yes, go ahead.
For that also, Mr. Thackeray didn't decline that we'll not going to do the same. He welcomed कि okay, if this is the condition, even though you are welcome, you just come up here and you just come up with a particular solution. We'll sit together and we will decide what next plan of action we need to do, because it's not a one-man show. It's a game of all the particular Shiv Senics who are gone to some other state. So they also need to come back and they also need to rethink over it, and they
stalemate
should
then.
forward a
So
particular
that is a deadlock, isn't it? One side is saying you need to first return and then we will consider. The other side is saying first you announce this, declare your ties broken with the MVA, and only then we will return. So where does it leave Mr. Ravi Srivastava? On one hand, you have Mr. Pawar and Mr. Kharge saying we are standing behind Uddhav Thackeray, we are steadfast in our support. And on the other hand, you have Mr. Sanjay Raut saying we can consider breaking the MVA.
See, all these things, whether the government will stay or government will go, is all in the realm of speculation as of now. But the fact is that it does not, show the way. It's all very confusing. First of all, Mr. Eknath Shinde says that I don't want the Hindutva which is displayed by the MVA. I want a Hindutva of the BJP. And then it's all, they are changing the stand and the goalpost every now and then. And now what happened, finally, that what you just now said, that predicament that either you first withdraw from the MVA or you first come here and then we will withdraw from the MVA. This is all, I don't buy all these justifications and all these statements. Somebody dictating the terms sitting 2,600 kilometers away and showing a strength that so many people are there. I don't think that the governments run like this. And what Mr. Pawar has rightly said, that whether the government will survive or the government will go, it will be decided on the floor of the assembly, not on these remote calls, these virtual meetings, on the video parade.
No, what I was trying to understand from you, that the stakes are very high for the Congress and the NCP as well. You know, it's not a collapse or a breakdown of the Shiv Sena alone. It will be a breakdown. It will be a loss for by default of the Congress and NCP as well if this government falls. But you're saying that it doesn't work like that. These arm twisting tactics from a remote location doesn't work. Varun Singh, where do you stand on this? It's quite a shame as well, because now you have so many of statements being made about how MLAs are held under duress. Someone is saying they are being paid off. Someone is saying not all of them are behind Mr. Shinde, and signatures can also be taken under duress. My colleague was saying that there is a possibility that some of them might return. What is your position in this matter and in this entire conundrum?
First of all, let me remind my esteemed speaker who said Shinde has changed statements. No. He has been very clear since day one. He spoke yesterday for the first time and he said the Hindutva that the Shiv Sena was known for, it has stopped following and we want that Hindutva. He never said BJP ka Hindutva lao. I don't know where did this thing come from. It might be the figment of imagination of someone, but probably I have heard and seen Shinde speaking and his tweets have been followed. He never said. He has been very firm. And let me tell you, even Uddhav Thackeray and his camp has realized that they do not have the numbers. He has to resign and he will resign. And it is politics. Please, why are we talking like as if we are class 2 kids talking about class civics and political science, that how politics has to be done and what is the model code of conduct to be followed to do politics in this country. There is no party which doesn't get into all this thing. There is no party which can say that it has never done this. Even NCP or for that matter, any other party. Everyone does this, and this is how every political party wants to have their person as the CM. They are doing it to have power, and that is what, if BJP is behind this, and I believe BJP is behind this, and Shinde has clearly said the national party that he wants to support, no national party other than BJP he mentioned, and that is what he is clear. He right now has 37 MLAs with him from the Shiv Sena. He has independents with him. He has the numbers. And why are they waiting? For a very simple reason, because the BJP was burnt last time when Ajit Pawar came in but didn't have the support signature list of the MLAs. This time, before the BJP goes and stakes claim, they want to have everything clear with them. Unlike the mistakes that they made in the past.
Okay, fair point. So you are saying they're treading cautiously. That's why the delay.
Can I respond, please?
Yes, I will come to you. Let me just try and understand what we heard from Mr. Varun Singh. He's saying they're treading cautiously and once bitten, twice shy. The BJP doesn't want to take any chances and BJP is orchestrating this. Shubhrastra ji, I want to begin by asking you about what Mr. Pawar said just a short while ago, that Hindutva is just an alibi, it's a smoke screen. The real issue is something else. BJP is masterminding it. We heard Mamata Banerjee saying money is being thrown at the MLAs. Your response?
I would agree with Varun, Mr. Varun, when he says that, I would like to believe that BJP is behind it. I think no political party who is serious about politics would let an opportunity like this go away. That money is involved shouldn't come as a shock, because any democracy, let alone a parliamentary democracy, we all know that there are loopholes in the system. So either we have an autocracy or we have a democracy. Because if we have a democracy, then there are going to be certain loopholes, and money, exchanging hands is just a part and parcel of it. Now, whether it is right or wrong, whether it is moral or immoral is a question that we may debate ad nauseum. It has been a part of debates, in political theories, but that's a separate issue. With respect to Maharashtra, what Mr. Pawar said is also pretty true. Of course, I wouldn't use the word smoke screen. For some political parties, Hindutva is a core issue. And it was for Shiv Sena and BJP for very long. I mean, Shiv Sena, we don't need to recall how aggressive a brand of Hindutva has Shiv Sena followed back in the days.
No, by their own admission, by their own, Mr. Shinde's letter says it. He says that because we were sidelined and NCP and Congress MLAs were favoured over Shiv Sena, that is one of the reasons why the MLAs are disgruntled. So he says it. Therefore, when you put in Hindutva in the mix, it's confusing. Either it's ideology or it is because you did not get a big enough share of the power pie.
It's,
I'll come to you. Let Shubhrastra complete. I'll come to you quickly.
Okay.
Yes, so I agree with you there. Of course, Hindutva may be an agenda for some politicians out there. Hindutva may be an agenda on ground. But at the very top level, when such political negotiations happen, when hardcore, jugglery happens, when hardcore calculation on numbers happen, all kinds of ideologies take a back seat. We know it. At the end of the day, all your ideologies are powerful only when you are in the seat of power. So you will do anything and everything to get in power. Otherwise, please explain to me the logic behind Shiv Sena and NCP coming together. They were not historical partners. They are not historical partners. But they came together to share power, and there's nothing wrong in it.
When it comes to that, when it comes to the lure of power, no one can take the high moral ground here. Yes, you wanted to come in. Please go ahead. Mr. Varun Singh wanted to come in.
Everyone is mixing two things. What Eknath Shinde tweeted yesterday was that Hindutva of the Shiv Sena is going. That is a different tweet. He said, with the Hindutva that the MVA and MVA is doing, it's not possible for them to go back to their constituents and win. The other thing that you're talking about, MLAs not receiving fund, is another letter by an MLA who's supporting Shinde. So when Shinde speaks about Hindutva, Shiv Sena ignoring.
I'm referring to Eknath Shinde's letter this morning, where he lists out all the reasons why MLAs are disgruntled.
That is by Sanjay Sirsat, madam. He is an MLA. It is not by Eknath Shinde. That letter is by Sanjay Sirsat.
He's a representative of the Shinde camp.
Yeah. So he is listing what are the problems MLAs were facing. He is listing the problems that MLAs would face. The Shiv Sena MLAs, and I have been telling this for last 1 year, that most of the MLAs from Shiv Sena, they would never get an audience from the CM. At the same time, you would see, forget Congress, NCP, it was only NCP. The NCP wants to stick to this government, wants this government to run because they are the biggest gainer. Look at the MLC election results. They have gained while Shiv Sena has lost, Congress has lost. They were the only people, NCP, from 53 to 57 seats or votes. That is what NCP has gained. They want this government to
So
remain.
this revolt is all about power, position, posts, ministership. That is what it comes down to, isn't it? Mandar Parab is also with us. Sorry to keep you waiting. Go ahead, Mr. Parab. You wanted to come into the conversation.
Yes, if you see the way things are going, nobody would like to be in the shoes of Pratap Sarnaik of ED and CBI. That is one factor. That is the reason everybody is saying BJP is behind. Because see, all the MLAs sitting there are claiming, they're talking about Hindutva, but that they didn't mention anything about 2.5 years ago when they're running the government. Now they're saying they're talking about Hindutva. Now Shinde is saying we are suffocating because of NCP. So the real picture will be clear when MLAs will come to Mumbai. See, and Uddhav Thackeray also is saying, I am ready to resign, you come and speak to us. So when he is very much assured that when they come face to face, they are not able to revolt against him. That is the thing he's saying, and that is just on the same line Sanjay Raut is also saying, they are ready to quit the government, but first you come. So after that, only it can happen. Because Shinde has already made a point that so many MLAs are not happy with the way the government is functioning. But in other words, Shiv Sena also knows when they come to face with Uddhav Thackeray, many will come back. So this is a dilemma, and on the same line, even if we heard Mr. Pawar's press conference, he is also saying we are in support. Obviously, they have to support because still the government is there. So they cannot deny we will not support.
It is not entirely believable that all of these MLAs are actually standing up in support of Eknath Shinde. Things might change if they return to Mumbai.
Exactly.
Okay, I want to
Just
quickly,
one line.
very quickly.
Very quickly, because Mandar spoke about Pratap Sarnaik. Pratap Sarnaik had written a letter almost 1 year ago reminding Hindutva to Uddhav Thackeray. It is not for the first time that these people have woken up. They have been there. They have been continuously speaking, directly, indirectly. So Hindutva was always there. And when now they see Congress...
No, it is there. The fact is that there is a very large sentiment within the Shiv Sena that believes their vote bank is depleting. Public sentiment is going against them because they have drifted away from their core ideology. No one is denying that. And of course, the recent elections, whether it's the Rajya Sabha election or the MLC polls, have probably aggravated that concern. I'm willing to give it, that much credit to what Mr. Shinde says. Ravi Srivastava, you wanted to come in.
Yeah, I'm not able to comprehend that what is the actual issue. The actual issue is Hindutva, actual issue is the sidelining of the MLAs, actual issue is the NCP MLAs getting more money than Shiv Sena MLAs, actual issue is Aditya Thackeray getting more prominence than Eknath Shinde. I think it's all a mix-up. Hindutva is only a farce, only a bogey. Because this person, Eknath Shinde, only was instrumental in making the government on November 2019. And this BJP was sulking since then because Fadnavis, who was given an oath in the morning at 5:30 by the friendly governor, Mr. Bhagat Singh Koshyari, and did not last for more than 3 days. So that's a pain they are bearing in their mind. I am asking a question. 25 channels are covering round the clock this particular Maharashtra Vikas Aghadi crisis, but not even a single person has asked that who is paying the bill for the Radisson Blue for last 3 days? Who is paying the bill for that chartered flights for 25 or 40 MLAs from Surat to Guwahati? Nobody is asking that question.
We are saying that money is being thrown. We are saying and there is money at play.
BJP
We've
is
brought that up
behind
in all our
it. Nobody is asking a
discussions
question.
that somebody is financing all of this and there is money being thrown, whether it is to purchase MLAs as Mamata Banerjee is putting it, or to keep them together, hold up in a hotel in Guwahati. Money is at play. No one is denying that. I want to go across to Sanjay Hegde. Do you also think, Mr.
Afrida,
Hegde?
no, one more. Allow me 10 seconds. 10
Sure.
seconds. 10 seconds only I'm asking. Yeah, I'm asking, it is not alone money. It is something else over these people. Some EDs fear, some CBIs fear, somebody is blackmailing these MLAs for succumbing to the pressure of the government. So
Okay,
that
all
they
of that is in the
exactly
realm
the
of
point
this kind of a
speculation.
revolt.
Hang
Once they
on,
are brought
already
back,
let me come
everything
back
will
to
be
the
done
core
away.
question again. Mr. Hegde, do
Two
you
sitting
believe that
ministers
it's...
are already
Hang
inside.
on, we'll come back to it. We'll come back to it. Let's again go back to this point about whether, at this point, Mr. Hegde, do you think the constitutional position that a governor holds or a speaker holds comes into play, or will that come into play much later? Because clearly it is a situation of who blinks first now. So unless we cross that hurdle, we do not even get to the point where a constitutional authority will take a call.
See, you can't have this situation continuing indefinitely. Something has to give. You can't keep them in Guwahati indefinitely. Today, you already saw other parties turning up in Guwahati. There is a lot of chaos. And the situation has to be resolved in Maharashtra itself. Now, as to when that will happen, we don't know. Now, please take Maharashtra off the table. I'm just speaking general politics. It is said that if you shoot at a king, you have to kill the king. Because otherwise, a wounded king, once he survives, he knows various ways of staying on in power. What seems to have happened here is that Mr. Shinde has set off into Guwahati. He has been assured that that the BJP will then back him and that there will be a change of government. That has not happened. The longer that this game goes on with people staying away from Bombay, the more ground will Mr. Thackeray recover.
Okay, that's
or whoever
interesting.
else is in that
Which is
position
why
of
I
defense.
said, you know,
it helps the defense.
Right.
Isn't it happening completely different?
No, let Mr. Hegde complete. Yes.
While we are talking about Hindutva and all that, we have forgotten that the Shiv Sena came out as a Maharashtrian party, a party of Maharashtrian pride. Now, if you see Maharashtra being ruled from Guwahati or from Delhi, then I am pretty certain that there is a case to be made out politically about Maratha pride being dented. This is exactly what Mr. Fadnavis and his team do not want.
Yes, Shubhrashta ji, picking up from what Mr. Hegde said, you know, and I'm saying this, you know, in our lines as well, that a loyalist today can be a rebel tomorrow. And that applies to both Mr. Thackeray and Mr. Shinde. And my colleague in Guwahati also telling us the situation is fluid. Some of them can return back to the fold. Is it because you are unsure that you actually have to physically keep the MLAs together in a hotel? Do you think that there is a lot of unconstitutionality in all of this?
Yes, Afrida ji, I agree with you. I also agree with the fact that, you know, if at the end of the day, it's the governor in front of whom people will have to show their strength, whichever camp really wants to claim its share of power. Having said that, let me also tell you that we are talking real politics. In real politics, these are this is a part of daily soap opera that would continue for another week or so. Now, Mr. Uddhav Thackeray has already said that he is COVID positive. Now, so that also is a political statement. He has already bought time for good 15 days for him to, you know, to be able to juggle up numbers. So this is all a part of this big mega political soap, daily soap that Maharashtra politics has become. I would want to go back to what Mr. Ravi Srivastava said. Now, I agree with Mr. Varun again when he says that let's not discuss class 2 civic lessons. We all know how governments are formed, how governments should be formed. The real question today for this panel is whether or not in Maharashtra, the current MVA is going to claim its share to power. That's the real question. Now, your question about constitutionality. Of course, the methods used will not always be supremely pristine and moral. The question really is, when the numbers come up, whether it is with Mr. Thackeray or it is with, with Eknath Shinde, are those numbers constitutional? Are the MLAs who are there, are they willing to walk the aisle with Mr. Shinde or Mr. Thackeray? And that is where constitutionality will be put to test. It's only on the floor of the House that we can discuss the, the nuances of the Constitution. Beyond that, everything is for camera. Everything is for, manipulating public emotions. Everything is out there to lure one MLA into this fold or the other. Now, let us not believe on the question of ED. Are we really normalizing the discourse that people on whom, ED raids happen are extremely, extremely pure people who have nothing to do? Obviously ED goes to you if you've done some kind of financial misappropriation, some kind of money laundering that has happened. Now, we can have a separate discussion on an urban debate whether businesses in India are really, government is really friendly with business houses in this country. That is a separate issue.
Okay.
Mr.
Shall I respond?
Yes, please go ahead.
No, Mr. Ravi, what I'm saying is that
respond.
people who are claiming that, ED is breathing down their neck should also look into their businesses if they have really done some hanky-panky along the way, or have they been extremely pure in conducting their business. That's the limited point that I'm trying to make.
Secretary Sachin Joshi, he is the secretary to Mr. Eknath Shinde. He has got the ED notice 10 days before and he is absconding.
So what
You want something more?
So what?
We cannot
I
deny.
agree with
ED
you,
is
Mr.
But Mr. Shinde has managed to galvanize 34 Shiv Senics. Can you deny that, Mr. Ravi Srivastava? He may have got an ED notice, but within overnight, for him to galvanize such large numbers.
I'm telling Afrida,
are you telling me this has happened overnight the moment he got an ED notice? There was discontent brewing in the Shiv Sena. No one can perhaps deny that. And the surprising thing is, Mr. Thackeray never got a whiff of it.
That is different.
Mohit Bajaj, is pe bhi thoda, let's dwell on this point a bit. The fact that Mr. Shinde had the support of whatever be the number, 30 plus, no one had a whiff of it that they could be flown all over to Guwahati. And the fact that, this kind of a rebellion was brewing, it is almost like you have a situation where the party has ousted the Supremo. The Supremo is looking isolated now. And this is a curious case, in fact, of the party ousting the man, the Thackeray. That's why, in fact, we are asking whether there can be a Shiv Sena without the Thackerays, Mohit Bajaj.
Of this kind of situation.
Yes.
The late N.T. Rama Rao, in the Telugu Desam, was sidelined by Chandrababu Naidu, his own son-in-law. That has happened, but that was within the family.
Yes.
I don't remember any other case like that.
Yes, no, thank you. Mr. Hegde, I was putting that question to Mohit Bajaj. I'll come back to you again on this. Yes, Mohit Bajaj ji.
Okay. Just like while we're talking about the officials of Maharashtra, like the Deputy Speaker and the Honorable Governor of Maharashtra, they can also come up with the front call. But we are waiting only of our Shiv Senics. That the request, whatever made by the Honorable CM yesterday, that we had came up with a particular letter by Honorable Shinde ji. So we are right now thinking over it, and no doubt something is happening on the back end. Something is continuously happening on the back end, and we are continuously approaching to find out a particular
but
solution.
But was it that level of disconnect?
Please.
Is it true, Mr. Mohit Bajaj, that Uddhav Thackeray was inaccessible? The doors of Varsha Bungalow were closed to the MLAs. They had to wait outside for hours on end. Of course, the man was indisposed, he was ill, and there was COVID. But beyond that, it seems that he did not have a regular connect with the MLA. So much so that he wakes up one fine day to see 34 of them is with Mr. Shinde in Guwahati. All this while, were the Thackeray's in deep slumber? Have they been caught completely off guard?
For that, I need to highlight one of the tweet by Honorable Shinde ji, because he is the highlighted person right now. Okay, if you are checking out the tweet of Honorable Shinde ji, so he tweeted few days back we are having one Vardhapan, this means the foundation day of Shiv Sena. Okay, so he is sitting with the Honorable CM, he is sitting with Aditya Thackeray ji, and he is sitting with all the political leaders of Shiv Sena over there. So he is just like enjoying over there, he is just like giving the inputs over there. So what we can say about that tweet, that is not happened few years back, that happened only few days back, only 2-3 days back. We have the foundation day. It is completely, I'm concluding it with a null and void condition. And while talking about the Varsha Bungalow, where you are saying that the doors are closed for the MLAs, actually what I can guess, only I can guess, I'm not sure about it, but I can guess that this 31 months of the government, we are having around 29 months of COVID. We are fighting up with the COVID. So we are having some protocols with the COVID also. So maybe due to the COVID, there may are some protocols. Even sometimes some of the people saying, you know, that the biggest hub, or the biggest jam of the COVID is Maharashtra.
But do you agree that the tables have been turned?
With that particular
the party netas, the MLAs, yes, you may please.
Yeah.
But let me finish this point that it seems that the party MLAs have turned the tables on Mr. Thackeray. That's clearly visible, at least as of now. Yes, Mr. Varun Singh.
Mohit, I just have one question.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, Mohit, I just have one question to you. So you do not agree?
Yeah, sure. Sure, you can ask.
So you do not agree that the MLAs are saying that they never could get an audience with Uddhav Thackeray is not true. That is what you're saying. Is it true or not? That they never got an audience with Uddhav Thackeray. Is it true or not? Yes or no?
No.
Yes or no? Just yes or no. I'm
Actually,
not explaining yes or no.
Yes. Exactly. Yes.
So you're saying
it is yes only, because if somebody is having some confusion, it's yes, na? It's no doubt it's yes. I am saying that maybe if they belong to Shiv Sena, yes, exactly.
How could NCP ministers, wait a second. So सेना वालों के लिए कोविड है, but एनसीपी के नेता, एनसीपी के मिनिस्टर्स उद्धव ठाकरे के साथ वर्षा बंगले में बराबर मिल सकते हैं.
Which is why, Mr. Mohit Bajaj, there is a very strong opinion here that you've basically here BJP's role is absolutely redundant if that is the case. If it is a case of Mr. Uddhav Thackeray losing connect with his party members to the extent that Mr. Shinde managed to galvanize it in his favor, then it is an implosion within the Shiv Sena. You cannot blame anyone else for it. They hardly had to do anything. It was offered, it's literally offered on a platter to the BJP. I'm going with what Subhrashtra ji is telling us, that BJP, of course, is actively involved. And they have to be, this is politics after all. Mr. Sanjay Hegde, coming back to you, again, the fact is that, okay, I'm told Mr. Hegde is not with us. Mandar Parab, I want a neutral voice in this. I want a neutral voice to weigh in and tell me that given the current scenario, what happens next? Now, we have seen the posturing, we have seen the grandstanding of both the sides. There are a lot of conspiracy theorists as well. One conspiracy theory is that the MLAs who have gone to Guwahati, some of them are being planted just to go and observe what is happening. And they are actually spying on the rebel camp for information to be transmitted. That's another conspiracy theory I heard.
See, the real situation will come.
Yes.
Real situation will come to know in 2-3 days when they come back to Mumbai. They have to come back to Mumbai, and they have to go to the Raj Bhavan and give the letter that they have the support. That is one thing, technical part of it. And other thing is, without the support of BJP, why they are going to BJP states? Obviously, there is a support of BJP. Otherwise, they won't go. They went to Surat. Now they're in Guwahati. So what I'm trying to tell you, somebody is behind them, and everybody knows that without BJP's support, it cannot happen. The only thing is nobody is coming out clearly, but Mr. Shinde, in his statement made to the MLA, he said BJP is there with us. Obviously, he made one point that BJP is there and BJP is orchestrating, and that is a known fact. Only thing is BJP is not coming out till they are assured that nothing will go wrong. When the things will be clear for BJP, then they will come with Mr. Eknath Shinde. Otherwise, it won't happen. Otherwise, this kind of so many MLAs with one person.
How long will it take for them to be sure? I do not think in a situation like this one can ever be sure. when there are not one or two but 35 plus MLAs involved, anybody can switch loyalties anytime. How can one ever be sure? Ravi Srivastava, go ahead.
Absolutely, you are right. Yeah. That's why BJP is not opening its card. They are doing everything from the backside, but they knew that they could do it in Madhya Pradesh, they could do it in Manipur, they could do it in Karnataka, they could do it in many governments. But they were kicked out in Rajasthan. So they know very well that the stakes are very high, and that is why they are not exposing themselves. But issue here is that how long they can sustain it. Every passing hour or every passing day, this Eknath Shinde is losing the grip on his MLAs. And that's the reason that Sharad Pawar made a very straightforward statement that MVA government is very much stable and nothing will happen till it goes on the floor of the assembly. That's a fact.
Well, it's not over till it's over, which is why we keep saying there's a lot of kite flying also going on. There's a lot of speculation. Shubhrashta ji, you wanted to come in on this.
Yes, Afrida, there are certain facts that we should keep in mind since we are only talking numbers. What if NCP and BJP comes together tomorrow? What if BJP, NCP and Shiv Sena, the three come together and leave Congress to, hang out dry? These are all possibilities in a situation where nobody is saying anything firmly about who is going to form which government. Clearly, it is not a question of ideology anymore. It is simply a question of negotiation tactics. It is simply a question of who has how many MLAs in their pocket. It's as simple as that. So let us really not rule out the possibility of certain rejig. I agree with somebody on the panel who said that the MLAs may be plants in Guwahati too, and I agree with that. I mean, these are all parts of real politics. What if they come back and Uddhav Thackeray camp suddenly starts looking, better? But then maybe Uddhav decides to go back to the BJP because yesterday when Uddhav Thackeray addressed via Facebook Live, he was very categorical about the support that he has taken from the BJP and about the fact that these two parties have always fought elections together. So there is nothing kosher in politics. Everything is there to grab the seat of power, because only when you have power you can translate your vision into action. You can, even if you don't want to call it vision because you're a cynic, you can call it anything. You have political teeth only when you are in power. Otherwise, as an opposition, you can only do rabble rousing.
Mohit Bajaj, kya ye sahi hai? Is it true that there is no argument on any ideology? That was never the case. It's only about power, position, and the fact that Shiv Sena MLAs were getting a heartburn because the NCP seems to get the more, plump positions and the portfolios. And it all started from there. It started building from there. And Mr. Thackeray was not available to address any of those concerns. That is how it just blew up. Is that true, Mr. Mohit Bajaj?
Actually, it's not completely true. We can say that it can be coming up with some sort of confusion only, because if I'm talking about all these scenarios, so we can't conclude it, because right now, as you earlier said, that it is coming up with some sort of deadlock situation, and right now while talking about the concerned MLAs and what sort of communication, there is only the communication gap between the particular MLAs and the Honorable CM. That is the main concern. This is the only root cause why it happens.
No, but that communication gap is not now. That is not now because of Mumbai and Guwahati distance. That communication gap has persisted over 2.5 years, that the situation reached this level. It's Mr. Thackeray who, now of course, NCP on its part managed to do the firefighting in 2019 and got back Mr. Ajit Pawar. Can Shiv Sena do that? Do you have that kind of firefighting tactics that the NCP managed to do in their turn?
Yeah, exactly. We are having that. But the thing is that only one political party of India is Shiv Sena, who is doing 80% of social service and 20% we are involved only in the politics. That is the main concern. No doubt, we are not the concerned political giants. So that is what I can want to highlight, because Shiv Sena is like
No, I'm sorry, I don't
right
accept
now
that.
from
This is
so
all
many
politics.
years. 35
I don't
years
see
here.
any service to humanity or public here. This is all politics. The MLAs have abandoned their constituencies and they've decided
Everybody
to
wants
go
to
to
stay in
Assam.
power, and that is the reason this
Why would
song.
they go to Assam? The MLAs of your party, of Shiv Sena, would agree to fly to Assam if it was not all about politics? Yes, go ahead, Varun Singh, please go ahead.
You know, I don't want to put Mohit in this spot, but I don't know when was the last he himself had an audience, because as a spokesperson, he must be getting regular feedback from either Aditya or Uddhav, but I don't know when he had. Let me tell you a very small thing. Shinde camp is pretty strong over here. Shinde camp, and I don't know what is the problem there in Assam. They are still still in India, and I don't know any other political party which, forget Assam. यहाँ पे भी तो सारे के सारे MLAs को होटल में रखा हुआ है ना, मुंबई में, बर्ली में. Sena has put their MLAs in hotel, and look at these people who are coming over here. They are close Sena confident. They are close Uddhav confident. You know, when I saw Sada Sarvankar leaving, I was shell shocked, because it's not only about Sada Sarvankar, it is also about his son, who is a corporator, Pratap Sarnaik, whose son is a corporator and a close Aditya confident. Yogesh Kadam, you see here, his father Ramdas Kadam might not be in good terms now, but he himself is a close Aditya Thackeray confident. You see, I can tell you numerous people over here who are not...
Afrida, can I respond, please? Can I respond?
Yes. Let me complete, sir. Then
No, please complete, and
Can I
I'm
respond,
running out of
please?
time, but quickly complete,
I'm
Mr.
just
Varun
saying,
Singh.
you know,
10 seconds.
over here, the people you see are not just
I'll
Uddhav
take
confident
only
or
10
Aditya
seconds.
confident. They are the Shiv Sena. They are hardcore socialists, and they have abandoned not Shiv Sena, not the ideology. They have abandoned their leader, who has drifted away from the politics of Hindutva and the ideology that Bal Thackeray used to have.
Okay, Mr. Ravi Srivastava.
This Hindutva bogey once again, my friend, is raising. Where was Hindutva for 2.5 years? Eknath Shinde was the urban development minister, and he was all in, all builders are around in the Thane and Dombivali area. So please don't talk about that. Whatever he has done it, he has done it. But the fact is that all these people who are in Assam, Guwahati, in Radisson Blue, some of them are only tourists there. They are not to be counted as a supporter to Eknath Shinde. Once the whole team comes back, then you will realize that how many were with him and how many are only tourists.
It's one word against the other. Let me conclude by saying that what I said during the program as well, a loyalist today can be a rebel tomorrow. The loyalties are shifting by the minute. I think there is still no clarity on who has the actual numbers. Thank you so much for joining me here on the Urban Debate. Shubhrashtra, Varun Singh, Sanjay Hegde, Ravi Srivastava, Mohit Bajaj and Mandar Parab. Thanks for joining us.